My name is Sainteen, and I was named after Mildred Sparks, who was the matron of the whale house up in Cluckwan. When I was 4, well, Alaska became a state. Mom dressed us up in our 4th of July clothes and took us all down. I saw my dad's brother, Roy. That's the first time I saw a tow-cap blanket. When I saw the smooth, graceful movement of the fringe, I knew that's all I wanted to do when I grew up, but I didn't tell anybody for 20 years. So I was working up at the Senate for Senator Frank Ferguson from Kotzebue, and we were invited to a cocktail reception up at John Sackett's, and John was from Ruby. There were indigenous people that were powerful in the House and the Senate. John Sackett said to me, he said, "Ann, I love having you work for us, but I feel like there's something else in your future. Like, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to make tow-cap blankets." The next day I went to work and Frank Ferguson took me into the office, which he never did. I never got singled out. And he said, "John told me that you want to do this artwork. What's it going to take?" And I told him. I said, "It's going to take a year to learn." And he said, "Well, write me up a position paper." And he put it into the reappropriation bill. They called it the Christmas tree bill back in those days. And then I got a phone call and Governor Jay Hammond had signed the bill in the summertime. That's how I got started. So I just quit my job, and it was really hard to get that income up, but I was like, well, it's now or never. I started under the apprenticeship of Jenny Clenot up at Cluckwan. And Jenny was mean. She would like pinch my arm when I was weaving and like kick my shin under the table and things like that, and take it out, do it again. But I enjoyed it. She was a walk in the park after my dad, who was a sergeant in the military for 12 years during the Second World War. She was like my grandparents. She was my grandparents' generation. And our grandparents only spoke Tlingit to us in the home. And, of course, our parents were punished when they, spoke Tlingit in school. And so they didn't teach us because they didn't want us to suffer like they did. That's all she spoke to me. And I would audio tape her, and then I'd bring the cassette tapes back to Juneau, and my dad would translate for me. I was being taught how to do it, but it just came so naturally. It was as if I'd already always done it because I'd wanted to do it for so long. I got the design of the woodworm woman from Steve Brown. He's just an exemplary carver. And he did a lot of totem poles around Juneau with my brother Nathan Jackson. And he would do my designs. So a couple months later, I went back up there and I had completely finished that tunic. She was pretty tickled, And I finally got her approval. She said, "You're just like me. You're just like me." That's the only thing she said in English. And since then, I've taught over 300 people. I never thought I would be honored by the university. My granddaughter calls me Dr. Grandma now. I have pieces, in France and Germany, Japan. And I'm just finishing a restoration now from a blanket from 1890. I've made tunics, headbands, blankets, dance leggings, bibs, purses. My dad calls them money bags, aprons, put deer hooves on the bottom and they go clack, clack, clack. The first thing we do is collect the yellow cedar bark, and we do that in the springtime. We go to the south side of the tree. We look for the same things that totem pole carvers look for. We want a straight grain and not too many branches. But we only take one strip off of each tree. 2 or 3 or 4 years, it'll grow back. We cut it till it's paper thin, and after it's paper thin, then we make strips out of it. Then we spin 2 strands of mountain goat wool and 2 strands of yellow cedar bark together. So it's months and months and months of preparation, and You just discipline yourself. I mean, after preparing all the yellow cedar bark and spinning the wool, it's like a party when you finally get to weave. And it takes about maybe 4 or 5 months to spin enough for a blanket. For instance, the killer whale blanket that's here at the museum, um, it was 8 feet wide and 7 feet high, and it took me 8,000 hours to weave that. Um, Nobody does this by themselves. I mean, my children have always helped me, and my husband's helped me. I couldn't have done all of this weaving, by myself. Oral history tells us that the Tsimshians were the first ones to make the chokat blankets. It was called nachin, which means fringe about the body. The designs on the chokat blankets say, well, you're eagle, you're raven, you're from the whale house, you're from the killer whale fin house up in Klukwan. And the designs are totemic. They're an outward description of who we are. I think they're meant to be used. They're not just meant to be left on a wall. Concept of atu, every time you bring out your artifacts or your regalia, it gains in cultural value, but they call it bringing it out, and that's when it's presented to the world. It holds everybody up that's in that clan. In the old days, the chokat blankets were put on the grave houses to go with their owners, and they would just stay there, And at some point, they started cutting up the chokat blankets and giving them away at the potlatches. Same as in the days of old, it's honoring the person that's gone. And so I, we had my daughter's potlatch last May of 2022, and I cut up a weaving and gave that to 8 people at the doings. Not everybody does that, but our family does.